I wonder about your relationship with drumming and how it's changed over the years, because you've done it so long, and drumming for Rush is not, it's not like you just do
No.
I mean, there's some stuff going on there, right?
Yeah.
So has your relationship with your the instrument changed over the years?
Enormously so, in all those inner ways that might be boring to anyone else, but I feel them strongly. And it occurred to me lately that the band, even after all these years, 36 years, we're going through changes right now as individual musicians, and thus, you know, as a unit of musicians. And I found that part of it's been deliberate, that I've studied with teachers from time to time. And 2 years ago, I studied with the great jazz drummer Peter Erskine, and it was mainly to learn more about big band drumming that I admire. But in the process, of course, I couldn't help learning more about drumming, and carried it with me into what I do. And the teachers that I've had in the past, I had a great old-time teacher in the mid-90s that kind of helped me reinvent the way I approach the instrument, that still nourishes me now. And the inspiration of other players too, when you hear somebody play something great, old or new, you know, it inspires you. And I found since I was a little kid, not that I wanted to imitate it, but it just made me want to play, you know, and not in, I've heard some musicians say, there was a famous one of Eric Clapton saying he wanted to burn his guitar after hearing Jimi Hendrix. And you know, the horn player wanting to smash his horn after hearing Miles Davis, that kind of thing. And I never understood that. If I hear somebody great, it makes me want to go home and play, like, not out of frustration, but out of joy.
I mean, there are a lot of people who heard a Neil Peart drum and went, I want to smash my drums.
Well, I hear that. People say, oh, you inspired me to take up drumming, and I said, I'm sorry to your parents. What else can I say? So
when you go on one of these journeys and you've met new teachers and you come back, do Geddy and Alex start to panic? Like, Neil's back with a new sound. We have to, oh God, here we go?
Well, of course, they're subtle and incremental, but the one big change I made in '95, where I changed the whole setup of my drums and temporarily the way I held the sticks, and just dedicated myself to doing everything different. And when I first came back with the band, and we were working with producer Peter Collins at the time, and he was listening to my playing on the demos and so on, and say, well, it doesn't sound that much different to me. And to me, that was a compliment, because I changed everything, and it still sounded like me. And then when I started playing with the other guys, they did notice the clock was a subtle difference, that they had to mesh with me. And I mean, these things are indefinably subtle, but they were things that I've wanted to work on for 20 years. And I guess a good advantage, a good example of it is technique. I work so much with sequencers and click tracks that I became remarkably metronomic, you know, but that had a rigidity that went with it. So my mission then became to conquer that and become looser. So if you think of a technique instrument and a feel player, those are the two differences that I tried to bridge, and I'm still trying to bridge. I want to become more improvisational because I'm compositional. And my last drum instructional video was on drum soloing, and I said I compose a solo and then perform the variations within it as a piece of music for the audience. And right at that moment I said, oh, okay, I'm a composer, but I want to be an improviser. So I started working really hard on that, and now at this point, the first half of my solo is completely improvised from the first beat, through, you know, changes that I become familiar with and come to like in the process of a night's discovery, or even in the night's warm-up, I'll come across something, oh, that's good, and it goes in the solo that night.
So for a guy that has, to adding the improvisation to your routine, when you get out on stage and you have to play and you know that the first part is completely improvised, do you get scared?
It was nervous making it first, but then you learn to protect yourself in that the second half is composed, again, for the audience's benefit to be...
Just get there, just get to that second half?
Well, it's never, no, I get lost in it, and I've made comparisons to exploring on the motorcycle, getting lost on roads that close. Yeah. And I wander down rhythmic areas because I do challenge myself, because there are no consequences. There's no mistake. If I do something weird, play it twice, and it's a new part, you know? A jazz instrumentalist once told me.
Have you ever had the drumming solo equivalent of a motorcycle hitting a deer? Have you ever been...
Good comparison, because I've certainly had that experience, but again, it's soloing you can't, and that's why I'm more careful in the band's music, because the proverbial train wreck where the whole band gets lost is a nightmare, and we've, over the years, of course, evolved ways out of that. It happens to everybody. You mishear a rhythm or an echo off the back wall of the venue sometimes, can be a half beat out, and if you lose concentration for a second, you're suddenly half a beat out with the other guys. And we just look at each other and you decide, okay, go with him.